Good afternoon. Good afternoon to the afternoon session of the class. Today we are in the lecture 23 of Unit 2. So the topic today is maintenance and selection of pumping stations. Right? In the last class, Saturday's class, I have posted you the link and also the concepts what you have discussed. Right? So in this class, we are discussing about the various pumping stations, dry well and wet well pumping station, and also how to select this pumping station and what is the maintenance of the pumping station, right? Okay. So this picture was already last class I have pictured. You have seen this one also. So this is a simple pumping station, right? These are the wet well and dry well. This one is a accessory, the setup where you are onning and offing, where you are operating the pump, where you are operating the pump system. Next. So the types of pumping systems, as we already discussed, the pumping stations can be configured in a wide variety of arrangements depending on the size and application. Okay, na? Depends upon the size and application what we are doing, what we are applying. We are having two types of main pumping stations. These are classified depends upon the configuration. So what is the configuration? See here. The various types of pumps which are useful for sanitary system and also the storm water system are, first one is horizontal pumps in dry pit. So pit ante cheptukunnamo, a big space which is digged inside the ground. Okay, land అనుకోండి, land లో కింద ground లోపల ఒక height ఒక ఏరియాని dig చేస్తే that is nothing but a pit. Horizontal pumps in dry pit. So the horizontal pump, the centrifugal horizontal pumps ni placing in a dry pit. Second one, vertical pumps in a dry pit. Second one is vertical pumps in a dry pit. Next one is vertical pumps in a suction well. Submersible pumps in a suction sump. So all these types include a sewage receiving sump, which is called the suction sump or wet well. So generally to the whole, we are saying the pumping systems are of two types. One is dry well system, other one is a wet well system. So in the dry well system, we are having various types of pumps are used, horizontal pumps and vertical pumps. Whereas in the wet well or sump, suction sump, we are using other type vertical pumps as well as a submersible pumps. So other thing we are having, which is nothing but a screw pump station. So other type of some pumping station, the device where generally we are using centrifugal pumps as well as a submersible pumps for the pumping stations. The other new type of pump system is a screw type of pumping station. So if you see the figure, it will be very easily understood. So this is a screw pump. See this one arrangement. See this arrangement. This is a pump house, Archimedean screw pump. Okay, na? So the specifications are listed here. This is a pumping station. This is a pumping station. Backside you can see the water storage tank. This is the operating system. This is operating place where the screw pump, where the screws are rotating continuously from this place. So here you are having the operating section where the screws are rotated, thereby the water is moving up and down, depends upon the application. So this is one type of screw type storage pump. Now see this one. So the pumping station with horizontal pumps in dry pit. A pumping station with horizontal pump. So we are having horizontal pumping system in which one? In a dry pit. So this is a top view, this is the side view. Okay, so this is a ground layer. This is a top house operating room. Here you are having the setup of this dry pump system. Now see here, this is a dry pit where you are having a vertical pumping system. Children, you are having the vertical pumping system. The pump is situated here. Here the pump is situated in horizontal direction. Here, these are the valves. The 1, 2, 3. These are the valves. This is a piping system where you are taking the material where it is pumped. Now see the pumping station with vertical pumps in wet pump. Now we are using wet pit. So the front view, the top view, the front view, the top view. This is a front view, top view. See in the wet pit you are having a vertical pump. So the vertically arranged pump where you are having a vertical pump arranged in a wet pit. Wet pit means you are having water in it. Wet, dry means you don't have nothing. Dry area, wet area. See the positions here. The pump is placed on the top. You are having the pumping system in this way, right? Next thing is the pumping system with submersible sewage pumps in a wet system. So here you are having a submersible pump where it is placed inside the ground. So this is a ground. The submersible pump is placed inside the ground. That's why it is called submersible pumps in a wet system. So like this, you are having two types of classification. One is dry pit pump, dry pit pumping station, wet pit pumping station. Dry pit low, again you are having horizontal pumping and vertical pumping. Wet pit low, we are having horizontal pumping, vertical pumping as submersible pumping system. ఈ రెండు కాకుండా you are having other type of system. You are having other type of system that is nothing but your screw pumping station. Screw pumping station. So ఇప్పుడు వీటి గురించి మనం will discuss in detail. Now see, this is another type of submersible pump set where the cooling is made by an oil chamber filled with a specific oil around the motor in the same arrangement as the submersible pump set. In this case, there is no need to keep the minimum depth of sewage submergence. So ikkada em jarigindi ikkada here there is another type of submersible pump where the motor is cooled by making a use of oil filled around the engine motor. Okay na? Next, there is also the Archimedean screw pump set which is shown and which can be on used for lift stations as the delivery will be the atmospheric conditions. As delivery will be at atmospheric conditions. If you see the figure here, so here the water lifting here, see the feels water is moving when the screw is rotating in opposite or clockwise direction. It is lifting up here at this place. This are operated at this operating room through the big motors. So like this inside this wet pump, the water is lifted up through this Archimedean screw pump setup. So this is other type of screw pump station. Next. Then what is the meaning of dry pit? Dry pit ante enti, wet pit ante enti, we'll see now. The size of dry pit should be adequate for the number of pumps planned and should be such that to handle the sewage load at the desired pumping capacity. So the dry pit means it is a dry area. Which have adequate for the number of pumps. So for the accommodation of the pump anedi, it should be inadequately planned so that to handle the sewage load at the desired pump capacity. So it depends upon the capacity of the sewage, depends upon the number of pumps you are having. The dry pit should be constructed. Allowances should be also made for future requirements for additional or larger pumps. So inkoka feature, allowances should be given. And for example, you have chosen some area. For example, take you have chosen 2 cents. Okay, 2 cents, or if you take 200 square yards. If you take 200 square yards place for a dry pit, if in the future if you want to extend the area, if you want to keep some other things in the area, or if you want to extend, for example, in this area you have chosen only this place for the dry pit. So future లో expansion చేయాలంటే should be some allowance. These are the allowances for the extra place what you have to. So extend cheyadaniki kuda we have to take some allowances should be made for further requirements of additional or larger pumps. So larger pumps install cheyadaniki to handle the sewage we require additional space. Okay, in this configuration a separate dry pit and wet well are required, right? One to hold the sewage, one to house the pump and appurtenances. So a dry pit lo manam em chestunnamo, one dry pit lo we are housing the pump. Housing the pump means a place is located where you are accommodating the physical pumping system. And it oka place anamata, it's a house where you don't have any water. Whereas in the wet pump you are holding the sewage. Wet pit lo, wet pit or wet sump you are holding the sewage అంటే waste water hold చేస్తున్నావు. Dry pit or dry sump lo you are placing the pump and the other appurtenances. Appurtenances అంటే the manholes, whatever the walls, whatever the other pipes, everything. This option is required for installation where the pumps will otherwise need separate priming and whereas otherwise long suction pipes are needed. So this type of option is needed. The wet pump and dry pump are needed whenever you are using separate priming. Priming of water means you are removing the water, and also the long suction pipes are needed. In such cases we are using both type of pumps. It is also used to pump solids. It's also used to pump the solids in pipe galleries. It is also used to pump the solids in pipe galleries between the digesters or other solids handling the equipment. So what it is saying, along with the liquids sewage, it is also used to pump solids in the pipe galleries between the digesters or the accessories and also the equipment. While construction cost may be higher and the heating, ventilation, cooling systems is necessary when installed below the floor level. So whenever you are constructing, whenever you are designing this type of dry pit, the HVAC, I think you have heard the name HVAC. What is the meaning of HVAC? HVAC means this is used everywhere in any construction of buildings, offices, underground buildings, or any skyrise apartments, individual house like this. So heat, ventilation, air conditioned system, right? HVAC means heat, ventilation, air conditioning system. HVAC is also necessarily required for installation below the floor level. And this configuration is the best for operations and maintenance activities because operators can see and touch the equipment. So whenever you are constructing this type of thing, inside below the ground floor, below the floor level, you should require HVAC. For example, if you see any shopping malls, car parking, ఎక్కడ ఉంటుంది below the building, అంటే గ్రౌండ్ లెవెల్ నుంచి ఒక 2 floors, 3 floors, 4 floors వరకు కూడా ఉంటుంది. So whenever the car is going deeper into the floors, automatically the air supply అనేది తక్కువ ఉంటుంది, oxygen levels అనేది తక్కువ ఉంటాయి, and also the carbon monoxide coming from the car will increase. So లోపల టెంపరేచర్ outside the atmosphere కంటే ఎక్కువ ఉంటుంది, oxygen supply కూడా తక్కువ ఉంటుంది, and also at that point what you require a proper heat, ventilation, air conditioning. So air conditioning అంటే parking లో there is no need of keeping ACs. We can keep some sort of ventilators, exhausters, blowers, thereby లోపల ఉన్న heat ని through pipes ద్వారా బయటికి పంపించేస్తుంది. For that reason you require HVAC for this setup. Thereby the operators can see what's happening and can touch the equipment also, right? Next, suction sump or wet well. Second one is a wet well. Sewage sump is the compartment or a tank in which sewage is collected. అంతే కదా, sewage sump అనేది ఒక tank where the sewage is collected. The suction pipe of the pump may be connected. The suction pipe of the pump may be connected to the wet well or a submersible pump may be located in the wet well. Sewage sump design depends on the type of pumping station configuration. sewage pump design depends upon the type of pumping station. It may be a submersible pump or for dry well. And the type of pump controls. So wet well or section sump, wet well or suction sewage sump anedi design depends on what the configuration of the pumping station. Configuration emavvachu, it may be the dry well or the type of pump controls. Wet wells are typically designed to prevent the rapid pump cycling, but small enough to prevent a long detention time and associated water release. Next. See the wet well and dry well type. In this configuration, 2 pits wells are required, right? So whenever you are using both the wet well and dry well, whenever you are using both wet well and dry well, so what is the thing you require? 2 pits are generally required. పిట్స్ చెప్పాను కదా, ఒక గ్రౌండ్ లోపల పెద్ద గుంత, బావిలాగా గుంత తవ్వితే ఒక సర్టెన్ డెప్త్ లో వీఆర్ కాలింగ్ దెమ్ యాజ్ ఎ పిట్. వన్ రిక్వైర్డ్. వన్ టు హోల్డ్ ద ఫ్లూయిడ్, ఒక పిట్ వచ్చేసి హోల్డ్ ద ఫ్లూయిడ్, అండ్ అదర్ పిట్ ఈస్ టు హౌస్ ద పంప్. హౌస్ ద పంప్ అంటే హౌసింగ్ మీన్స్ నథింగ్ బట్ కవరింగ్, అంటే పంప్స్ ని, అదర్ యాక్సెసరీస్ ని, వాల్స్ ని, అప్రెంటిసెస్ ని కవర్ చేయడానికి దానికి ఒక హౌస్ కావాలి. అంటే ఇల్లు, హౌస్ అంటే జస్ట్ ఏ కవరింగ్, అంటే టు సెక్యూర్ దోస్ పార్ట్స్ వి రిక్వైర్ అనదర్ పిట్. సో డ్రై వెల్ ఏమంటామంటే ఏదైతే మనము పంపుల్ని, అప్రెంటిస్ స్టోర్ చేస్తామో దాన్ని డ్రై వెల్ అంటాము. ఏదైతే ఫ్లూయిడ్ ని హోల్డ్ చేసుకుని ఉంటుందో దాన్ని మనం వెట్ వెల్ అంటాము. అర్థమైందా? దిస్ ఈస్ రిక్వైర్డ్ ఫర్ ఫ్లూయిడ్స్ దట్ కెనాట్ బి ప్రైమ్డ్ ఆర్ కన్వేడ్ లాంగ్ డిస్టెన్సెస్ ఇన్ సక్షన్ పైపింగ్. This option is typically used to pump large volumes of raw wastewater where uninterrupted flow is critical and wastewater solids could clog the suction piping, right? So this type of dry pit, this is required where the fluids cannot be primed, means going out, primed or conveyed long distances in suction piping. Next, while constructing cost of this type may be higher and HVAC system is necessary below the ground. Next, in this configuration, one well holds both the pumps, and wastewater being pumped. The pump impeller is submerged or nearly submerged in the wastewater. So whenever you are using wet well with the submersible pumps, what happens in this configuration? One well holds the pumps and the wastewater being pumped. The pump impeller is submerged or nearly submerged in the wastewater. Additional piping is not required in this type to convey the wastewater to the impeller. So wastewater impeller దగ్గరికి వెళ్ళడానికి submersible pump లో there is no additional piping. Or the submersible pipe will directly send the wastewater to the impeller. This option is commonly worldwide, and the submersible centrifugal pumps can be installed and operated cost effectively. So commercial గా world wide గా యూస్ చేసే pumps ఏంటంటే submersible centrifugal pumps. You can see those pumps in outside where you are having any outlets. If you go to any outlets, any shopping area where the pumps are purchased, you can see a small pumps and also a submersible pumps which are vertically standing on the ground. మీకు ఆల్రెడీ ఫిగర్స్ కూడా చూపించాను. vertical submersible pump, just like a barrel, just like a pipe లాగా, steel pipes లాగా, they will keep at one side in the purchasing area. Shops లోపల ఒక సైడ్ పెడతారు, అన్ని small, medium, large, depends upon the height. When vertical pumps are installed, the driving motor is mounted on the floor above the ceiling of the wet well. When the vertical pumps are installed, the driving motor is mounted on the floor above the ceiling of the wet well. See here. See here. So like this it is mounted, like this it is fixed. The submersible pumps, right? Next, here now we are using non-submersible pumps. Wet well with non-submersible. Ikkada wet well with submersible pumps. Ikkada wet well with non-submersible. In this configuration, one well holds the wastewater. Okay, in this configuration, one well holds the wastewater. The pumps are installed above the water level in the wet well. Wet well engineering the one well holds the water, and above wet well, we are having the pumps. This option is used in areas where the wastewater can be pulled through the suction piping. Example, treating or finished water, or where shutdowns or failures would not be immediately critical. Example, a packaged plant's raw water wastewater lift station, equalization of standard treated wastewater. Here what's happening? In this type of non-submersible pumps, you are having a sump, where one well holds the wastewater. Say here, up to here you are having the wastewater. You are having the one well is holding the wastewater. The pumps are installed above the water level in the wet level. The pumps are ranged at this position. The pumps and other apparatus are provided in this position. Thereby, there is no use of other separate piping. So directly the water can be lifted up, treated. Right? This is nothing but the wet well with non-submersible pumping system. Next concept is how to select the pumping stations. In selection of the best design, the environmental engineer should consider the following factors. While selecting those pump stations, some of the factors are: many gases are formed by domestic wastewater. Domestic wastewater, what we are getting from house, apartments, hotels, etc. Many gases are formed by the domestic wastewater, including that are flammable కూడా ఉంటాయి కొన్నిసార్లు. When pumps or other equipment are located in the rooms below the ground level. So ఇప్పుడు మీరు పంప్ హౌస్కి వెళ్తే some pumps are above the ground level, some pumps are below the ground level. Okay, when the pumps or other equipment are located in the rooms below the ground level, the possibility of explosion or gas buildup exists, and the ventilation is extremely important. So ఇక్కడ ఏం చెప్తున్నారు, whenever you are designing, whenever you are selecting a pumping station, when the pumps are placed, for example ఇది ground level అనుకుంటే, when the pumps are placed below the ground level like this. So this is a pit అనుకోండి. If the pump is placed below the ground level, what happens? There is a possibility of explosion or gas buildup on ventilation problem. So ఇలా డిజైన్ చేస్తే మనకి వెంటిలేషన్ ప్రాబ్లం ఉంది, ఎక్స్ప్లోజన్ అయ్యే ఛాన్సెస్ ఉంది, అండ్ ఆల్సో గ్యాస్ బిల్డప్ ఫామ్ అయ్యే ఛాన్సెస్ ఉంది. రైట్. నెక్స్ట్, when wastewater is pumped at high velocities or through the long lines, the hammering caused by the water can be a problem. So hammering and the vibration. So whenever the wastewater is passing in a large for a long distances, whenever the wastewater is pumped at high velocities, fast ga veltuntai, or through long pipes. So long pipe anukondi, long pipe lopala whenever the water is going with a high velocity, what happens? Automatically hammering అంటే ఆ సౌండ్, ఆ వైబ్రేషన్స్ ఆ పైప్స్ కి జరుగుతుంది. దట్ ఈస్ ఆల్సో ఏ ప్రాబ్లం. వాల్స్ అండ్ పైపింగ్ should be designed to withstand these pressure waves. So hammering తగ్గించడానికి we have to maintain the valves and the piping system to withstand the pressure waves. Even pumps that discharge to atmosphere should use check valves to cushion the surge. Coarse bar screens shall be provided ahead pumping station when centrifugal pumps are installed. Whenever the centrifugal pumps are installed, automatically coarse screens, మనము elements of pumping station లో చెప్పుకున్నాం. We require a pumping structure, screens and other raising main. So like this accessories components. అందులో whenever you are using the centrifugal pumps, right, with this type of hammering type of problem, we require the coarse bar screens ahead the pumping station when the centrifugal pumps are installed. Next, most of the places drive well design is preferred. So generally we most of the places no drive well design is preferred. The pumping station must be able to adjust the variation of the wastewater flow. The smallest capacity pump should be able to pump from the wet well and discharge at the self-cleansing velocity of about 0.6 meters per centimeter. Pump stations typically include at least 2 pumps and a basic wet well level control system. So generally a pumping system where they are using dry well type, generally it requires 2 pumps and a basic control level system. One pump is considered as standby pump, although the controls typically cycle back and forth during the normal flows, so they receive the equal wear. So why they are using 2 pumps? just for standby. Whenever the one pump fails, other pump it will be used. In such cases, they will use the standby pump, which is connected directly to the process. Next, the location and configuration of the pumping stations. The location and configuration. The proper location of the pumping station requires comprehensive study of the area to be served to ensure that entire area can be adequately drained. So whenever you are selecting the place where to install the pumping station, we have to ensure that entire area should be easily drained. Entire area should be properly drained if there is any problem. Okay. Next, the location of the pumping station will often be determined. The location of pumping station will often be determined by the trend of future overall development of the area. The site should be aesthetically satisfactory. So the site, what is the meaning of this site aesthetically? So generally, if you see some outside areas, a big pumping station. So pumping station laga unchakunda, pumping station laga kaakunda, చుట్టుపక్కల ఒక park, small park or recreation area, sit out area. So like this also you can design whenever the location is free from other things. If you see some areas in Hyderabad or Bangalore, the pumping stations అనేవి as it is pumping stations గా ఉండవు. So the nearby sites of the pumping station, it will be some recreation areas or small park or any walking areas, small plants ready grow చేసుకొని ఒక చిన్న setup లాగా కనిపిస్తుంది. So that is also can be made for selection of this pumping system. Next one, the pumping station has to be located and constructed such that it will not get flooded at any time. So future లో రేపు ఏ ఇబ్బంది జరిగినా, ఏ natural calamities జరిగినా కూడా there should not be any flooding అంటే వరదలు వచ్చి ఆ పంపింగ్ స్టేషన్ ని కొట్టుకుపోకుండా, లేదంటే పంపింగ్ స్టేషన్ మట్టితో అదర్ రాక్స్ తో కూడిపోకుండా ఉండడానికి we require proper location, right? Next, the stormwater pumping stations have to see stormwater pumping station have to be so located that water may be impounded without creating an undue amount of flood damage if the flow exceeds the pumping station capacity. So ఈ లొకేషన్ ఇన్స్టలేషన్ చేసేటప్పుడు for storm water pumping system లో whenever the water is impounded, whenever the storm water is having a flood damage, it should not flow exceeds the pumping capacity. అంటే మనం పంపింగ్ కెపాసిటీ ఇంత అని పెట్టుకున్నప్పుడు ఒక రేంజ్, ఆ రేంజ్ దాటి వెళ్ళకూడదు. ఇన్ సచ్ వే యూ హావ్ టు గో ఫర్ ద కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ స్టార్మ్ వాటర్ పంపింగ్ సిస్టమ్. నెక్స్ట్, సో ఇఫ్ యు సీ, ఇప్పుడు వర్షాకాలంలో ఇన్ ద న్యూస్ ఆల్సో యూ కెన్ సీ సమ్ డ్యామ్స్, సమ్ రిజర్వాయర్స్ ప్రమాదపు అంచు దాటిపోయింది, రైట్? వాళ్ళు న్యూస్లో చెప్తుంటారు ఆ అంచు ఆ లెవెల్ దాటి వచ్చేసింది, లేదంటే ఆ రెడ్ లెవెల్కి వచ్చేసింది, సో అందుకే గేట్లు ఎత్తేసాము. సో లైక్ దిస్ యూ కెన్ సీ సమ్ న్యూస్. ద సేమ్ వే యూ షుడ్ నాట్ ఎక్సీడ్స్ ద పంపింగ్ స్టేషన్ కెపాసిటీ. నెక్స్ట్, ద స్టేషన్ షుడ్ బి ఈజీలీ యాక్సెసిబుల్ అండర్ ఆల్ వెదర్ కండిషన్స్. సో ద పంపింగ్ స్టేషన్ అనేది 365 days రన్ అవ్వాలంటే ఇట్ షుడ్ బి withstand with all climates. Maybe a sunny day or a rainy day or a winter season or any summer season or any hot season. Pumping stations are typically located near the lowest point in the development. So lowest point in the development, generally pumping stations are located. However, the sitting and orientation of each pumping station shall be considered individually based upon the following criteria. So what are these criteria? The local topography, as slope of the ground and above the below the ground obstructions. So we have to see the geographical condition. Topography ante the land వచ్చేసి barren lands, slant గా ఉన్నాయా, లేదంటే steep గా ఉన్నాయా, లేదంటే step wise ఉన్నాయా. We have to see the local topography. Next, proposed layout for the particular development and future developments. So whatever the system you have proposed for the installation of pumping system, it should be developed at that time and also for the future developments also. Next one, proximity. Proximity of proposed or existing sewerage infrastructure. So proximity means the distance. Proximity of proposed or existing sewerage infrastructure. So there should be proximity, there should be nearby distance where you are constructing or you are going for existing infrastructure of the sewage. Size and type of pumping station. You have to see the design consideration. What is the size of pumping station? What is the type of pumping station? Dry weather or wet weather. So like this, you have to see all the criteria. Next one. Access considerations of O and M needs, including operators' health and safety issues. So what is the thing you have to consider again? Apart from this pumping station, apart from the pumps, other things, you have to look after the human health and safety issues. That is, what is OM? Operation and maintenance needs, including the operator's health and safety issues. Next, visual impact, particularly the vent tube, odors, noise problems, etc. So whatever the vent, other accessories, vent tube, other things, noise problem, everything should be visually clear. Everything should be picturized. Everything should be clearly seen. Whatever the things which you are designing inside the pumping station. Availability of power, water, etc. So usually, whenever you are, whatever the things you are installing, designing at any area, the proximity of power అంటే మనకి దగ్గరలో పవర్ జనరేషన్ అనేది మనకు అందుబాటులో ఉండాలి. ఓకే, పవర్ పోయినా స్టాండ్ బైగా వి రిక్వైర్ అదర్ సోర్స్ ఆఫ్ పవర్ అండ్ ఆల్సో ద వాటర్ అవైలబిలిటీ షుడ్ బి క్లియర్. Vulnerability of site for inundation. So vulnerabilities means the availability of resources. How much it is there. ఎంతవరకు మనకి రిసోర్సెస్ అవైలబిలిటీలో ఉన్నాయి whenever you are going for this installation. Next, compatibility to neighboring residences by suitable dialogues. So we have to see the compatibility. Compatibility means it should acquire our needs and customs. అంటే మనకు తగ్గట్టుగా కస్టమైజ్డ్గా it should be located nearby the residences, right? The next one is maintenance of pumping stations. Next one is a maintenance of pumping stations. So okay, so whenever you are installing or whenever you are operating any pumping station, either a dry well pump or a wet well pump, either by using centrifugal or submersible, some points should be maintained. Some points should be maintained for the checklist of the basic pumping station. So what is the first one? Check the wet well level continuously. సో డ్రై వెల్లో మనం వాటర్ ఉండదు కాబట్టి ఎప్పటికప్పుడు వీక్లీ ట్వైస్ a డే, వీక్లీ ఫార్ట్నైట్ అంటే ఎవ్రీ 15 days of the month, monthly, weekly, 15 days like that. Check the wet level continuously. Next, record each pump's run time hours as indicated and on elapsed time meters at least once in a day and confirm the pump's running hours are equal. Em cheyali? So every day whenever you are switch on the pumping station, you have to see the run time, how many hours the pump has been done. Ante kada. For your fan also, whenever you are purchasing your LED or normal bulb also, దాని మీద రాసి ఉంటుంది ఇన్ని అవర్స్ బల్బ్ యొక్క లైఫ్ కెపాసిటీ, లైఫ్ సైకిల్స్ అని ఉంటుంది. సో 800 hours you can LED bulb will work. ఒక 10 watts LED bulb 800 hours వర్క్ చేస్తుంది. అంటే per day if you are using 3 hours, 800 hours అంటే ఎన్ని రోజులు? సో లైక్ దిస్ యూ హ్యావ్ సమ్ క్యాలిక్యులేషన్, రైట్? ఫర్ ఫ్యాన్ ఆల్సో, ఫ్యాన్ కూడా ఇన్ని అవర్స్ అనేది మనకి తిరుగుతుంది. తర్వాత యూ కెనాట్ గ్యారంటీ. లైక్ దిస్ యూ హ్యావ్ టు రికార్డ్ ద పంప్స్, how many hours it has been worked, and also check at least with the reference of the running or equal. Ensure that the control panel switches are in their proper positions. Ante kada, before starting of any big setup, before starting of any aeroplane, before starting of any engine, before starting up of any operation, before starting you have to check all the electronic system, electrical system, mechanical system, either in the control or not, or all in the positions or not. Then only we have to switch on the control panels, right? Ensure that the valves are in their proper positions. So valves కూడా మనం చెక్ చేసుకోవాలి. So to check the valves, whether Manoj ensure that the valves are there in their proper positions. So you have to check the valve is in off condition or on condition. Okay, on the off the. So before starting of the pumping system, you have to check whether it is in a off or on. Check for unusual pump noises. So manaki pump noises. Every day we have to observe for general things. Either it is a pump problem, pumping problem. Is there any disturbances in the pump? ఎక్కడ వస్తున్నాయి పంప్స్, వెలాసిటీ హై వస్తున్నప్పుడు వస్తుందా, లో వస్తున్నప్పుడు వస్తుందా, పంప్ ఆన్ చేసినప్పుడు నాయిస్ వస్తుందా, పంప్ ఆఫ్ చేసినప్పుడు వస్తుందా, లేదంటే మిడిల్లో వస్తుందా, వై యు ఆర్ గెటింగ్ ద నాయిస్, ఎవ్రీథింగ్ షుడ్ బి చెక్డ్ either automatically or by manually. At least once in a week, manually pump down the wet well, manually pump down the wet well to check for and to remove debris and that they clog the pumps. ఇంకోటి ఏంటి, ఇది either for a wet well pump, once in a week you have to manually pump down the wet well. So manually we have to manually you have to empty the water in the wet well and check for the any debris or any leakages or any cracks are there in the pump. Enduku, so in order to avoid the blockage of the flow, లోపల చెత్త, సాలిడ్ చెత్త చెదారం ఏమైనా దాన్ని ఏమంటారు, డెబ్రిస్ అంటాం, సాలిడ్ వేస్ట్ ని డెబ్రిస్ అని చెప్తున్నాం. సో వన్స్ ఇన్ అ వీక్ యూ హ్యావ్ టు manually pump down the wet well. And pump down means pen down అంటే you are not writing, pen down means you are not writing anything. అదే pump down అంటే you are not pumping any water in the wet well. అంటే weekly once empty the wet well and go inside them and remove any debris matter is there or not. Inspect the float balls and cables and remove all debris to ensure that they operate properly. So inspect the float balls. For example, float balls and cables. So general example, if you want to go to any western toilet కి వెళ్ళినప్పుడు మనకి పైన ఒక క్యాబిన్ ఉంటుంది. when you flush the water will go to the commode. So దాన్ని మనము for example weekly once or 10 days once open the top box lid and దాని మీద ఒక ఫ్లోట్ బాల్ ఉంటుంది, ఒక ప్లాస్టిక్ బాల్. whenever you are flushing down, water బయటికి వెళ్ళిపోతుంది. whenever you are releasing up, again the water is filling the tank. అప్పుడు బాల్ కూడా పైకి లేస్తుంది. సో లైక్ that type of the accessories you can see in this setting. Then is the dry well pump. So inspect all these things regularly. Next, twisted cables are to be released that may affect automatic operations. So whenever you are doing this operation, కొన్నిసార్లు cables are twisted, ఒకదానికొకటి అల్లుకుపోయి ఉంటుంది. సో you have to release that type of system. Why? Because automatic గా రన్ అయ్యే ఛాన్సెస్ ఉన్నాయి. నెక్స్ట్, in a pump, if a pump is removed from service, adjust the lead pump selector switch to the number that corresponds to the pumps remaining in operation. So whenever you want to do a service for any pump which are connected in a series, right? Adjust the lead pump selector switch to the number of the remaining pumps while in operation. So standby you have to select a pump or you have to keep a pump whenever there is a pump problem, whenever you are having a pump problem for any service or for any breakdown of any pump, you require a standby pump which should not disturb the total line. So like these are the main maintenance of the pumping stations, right? These are the maintenance of the pumping station, and that's location and configuration of pumping stations. So generally ఇలాంటి క్వశ్చన్స్ వస్తాయి, డైరెక్ట్ క్వశ్చన్స్ కాకుండా in exam మెయింటెనెన్స్ గురించి, హౌ టు మెయింటైన్ ద పంపింగ్ స్టేషన్స్ అని రావచ్చు, లేదంటే సెలెక్షన్ ఆఫ్ పంపింగ్ స్టేషన్స్, హౌ టు సెలెక్ట్ ద పంపింగ్ స్టేషన్స్. డైరెక్ట్ క్వశ్చన్స్ మీన్స్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ ఆర్ రైట్ షార్ట్ నోట్స్ ఆన్ డ్రై వెల్ పంప్ అండ్ వెట్ వెల్ పంప్, అట్లయినా క్వశ్చన్ రావచ్చు. సో విత్ దిస్ యువర్ యూనిట్ 2 ఈజ్ ఆల్సో మ్యాక్సిమం కంప్లీటెడ్ అలాంగ్ విత్ ద సిలబస్. సో సిలబస్లో ఏదైతే ఉందో అవన్నీ మనము డిస్కస్ చేసుకున్నాము, రైట్? సో ఇఫ్ యూ గెట్ ఏ క్వశ్చన్ లైక్ దిస్, ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ అబౌట్ డ్రై వెల్ పంప్ ఆర్ వెట్ వెల్ పంప్, సో ఈ ఫిగర్ మీరు వెయ్యాల. సో దిస్ ఇస్ డ్రై పిట్ పంప్ విత్ హారిజాంటల్ పంప్, డ్రై పిట్ పంప్ విత్ వెర్టికల్ పంప్, ఇది వెట్ వెల్ పంప్ విత్ వెర్టికల్ పంప్, wet well pump with a submersible pump. Or directly you can draw this figure also రఫ్గా చూసారా లైక్ దిస్. సో ఇక్కడికి ఈ ముందు ఫిగర్లో ఏం చేస్తున్నారు, ఇది డ్రైవెల్. ఈ డ్రైవెల్ లోపల ఈ పంప్ అనేది లోపల ఇన్స్టాల్ చేస్తున్నారు, తర్వాత క్లోజ్ చేస్తారు. వెట్ వెల్. సో సీ హియర్ దిస్ ఇస్ వన్ వెల్, దిస్ ఇస్ వన్ వెల్. సో అదర్ పిక్చర్లో దిస్ ఇస్ వన్. ఇదేంటిది, ఇది వచ్చేసి ఆపరేటింగ్ బాక్స్. చూసారా బయట ఉంటుంది. దీని లోపల ఏముంటుంది, ఇది ఓపెన్ చేసి చూస్తే దీని లోపల మనకి సీల్స్ ఉంది, సబ్మర్సిబుల్ పంప్స్ విత్ ద వాల్వ్స్. దిస్ వన్ ఇస్ అ పైప్ బెడ్. సో మనకి ఇక్కడ ఏంటిది, జస్ట్ ఊరికే వర్షం పడితే లోపల ఎలక్ట్రికల్ కేబుల్స్ తడవకుండా జస్ట్ ఇట్లా పెట్టాడు ఫారెస్ట్ ఏరియాలో. సో దిస్ వన్ ఇస్ అ ఆపరేటింగ్ ఏరియా వేర్ ఆల్ ఎలక్ట్రికల్ అండ్ ఎలక్ట్రానిక్ మదర్ బోర్డ్స్, కంట్రోల్ ప్యానల్స్, ఎవ్రీథింగ్ ఈస్ లొకేటెడ్. దిస్ వన్ ఇది మీరు బయట చూసే ఉంటారు కదా ఇలాంటివి ఓపెనింగ్. సో దిస్ ఇస్ నథింగ్ బట్ ఆపరేటింగ్ సిస్టమ్. దిస్ ఇస్ నథింగ్ బట్ అ డ్రై పంప్. డ్రై పంప్ లోపల మనకి ఇవి ఉంటాయి, వెట్ పంప్ లోపల మనకి సీవేజ్ వాటర్ ఉంటుంది. డోంట్ గెట్ కన్ఫ్యూజ్డ్. So these are the various types of pumping stations, their configuration. This is a screw pump and the selection of the pumping stations and the location of the pumping stations and the maintenance of the pumping stations. So this ends your unit 2. If you have any doubts, just open your mic and you can talk to me. So totally today's class only 3 members were present. Very good. Okay. So with this I will close the class. So I will upload this video in the YouTube. Later I will send the link to your WhatsApp. Okay. Thanks for listening. Have a nice day. So once this class is completed, I will upload this video in the YouTube. I will send this link. So just open the link and watch it minimum so that